Coming on the heels of last week's fights over access to contraception, is the Virginia fight another example of efforts to place an undue burden on women seeking medical care? Well, Cynthia Tucker is a Pulitzer Prize-winning columnist and visiting professor at the University of Georgia. Marjorie Dannenfelser is president of the Susan B. Anthony List, which is a pro-life political organization. For Cynthia, you go first. What is wrong with this legislation requiring an ultrasound before an abortion?
Everything, Chris. You know, Republicans have been bludgeoning the Obama administration with this idea of government intrusiveness. The Affordable Care Act is supposed to be so intrusive. Requiring contraception from insurers is supposed to be so intrusive. More intrusive than mandating a medical procedure for a woman, one that is not medically necessary. What is more intrusive of government than getting in the relationship between a woman and her doctor? I can't imagine an episode of greater government overreach than that.
Okay, Marjorie, your thoughts about why it would be important for the legislature in any state to require this ultrasound before an abortion?
Really, this is a matter of giving a woman more information that she needs to make a decision that is fully informed. It's listen, these ultrasounds are standard procedure. Planned Parenthood's hotline in Virginia says that as well. All that is involved here is saying that 24 hours ahead of time that ultrasound be available and offered to the woman.
Offered? I thought the requirement of the law says they have to have it.
The information. You have to have the ultrasound, yes, because it also is not true that there is no medical value in it.
No, but just so the person watching the show understands the issue here. Is the issue whether this is required by law or not?
It is required by law.
Now, if you win. If you win.
That is right, if we win. And the actual ultrasound image is offered to the woman. She doesn't have to look at it. But it is not true that there's no medical necessity. That's why it's a standard procedure for
What's the medical advantage in having an ultrasound before an abortion?
Gestational age is key and vitally important. And women have died and had all sorts of complications from abortions when gestational age was not accurately determined. Cynthia?
Hang on just a minute. If in fact Planned Parenthood already does this, why is the law necessary? If a doctor believes that the procedure is medically necessary, a doctor will do it. There is no need for a law. But if it is not medically necessary, the government has no business telling a doctor he or she must perform this intrusive procedure when it's not
the information is vital. There are all sorts of other standard procedures that are required by government. This one is certainly vital for her health and for her fully informed decision.
Let me ask you a question, Marjorie. I'm not going to take Cynthia's side here, although I do agree that this is a concern that people should have about what they're required to do by any law. Why do you have to pass a law? There ought to be an onus on the people that want a law rather than people that don't need a new law. We have enough laws, you could argue. A woman decides to have an abortion. She makes the decision, right? It's legal under the law in the first trimester. Under the court ruling, she goes to get one. Why should you get in the way of that decision once she's made it? If she's made that decision, why should you require to jump over any more hoops or through any more hoops to do it?
The reason that the majority of women in Virginia and across the country support this is that they believe that in that vulnerable spot, in a very difficult place, that more information is better. And there are two decisions to make. One is a medical decision. One is about the very contentious, very difficult decision about what is actually happening in an abortion. And that ultrasound speaks to that. It's science. And it is a scientific opinion backing up a medical reality and a moral.
What percentage of women after having an ultrasound decide not to have an abortion?
I don't know the answer to that. I know that
why are you pushing a bill that you don't understand the implications of?
Well, I understand that women, I know that women think that they should have that information, and if they want the information, they should have it, and their doctor, an abortion should be required to give it to them.
If women thought that they needed this information, they could certainly request it.
Because they're in a very difficult, they're in a difficult spot. Listen, they get all kinds of other information about every other aspect of an appendectomy, about everything that's going to happen. This is arguably another human being.
Do you think abortion should be outlawed?
Of course I do. I think it's another human being. But that's talking about here. And what really...
Is this another way to begin the process of outlawing it?
This is about
politically.
This truly is about giving a woman a fully informed decision about what's actually going on.
Cynthia, last thought here, because I want to move on to a larger question about women's health here. Your thought on this. Is this what do you think this means, Cynthia, that this is now being pushed, this kind of thing in all these states, and actually has been passed into law in some great states?
It is harassment because the groups who are pushing this don't want women to have the right to decide. It is extremely condescending to suggest that women have not already thought deeply about this, prayed about it, talked to friends and family before they go into an abortion clinic. And if they wanted more information, they could certainly ask the doctor for it.
Why should an abortionist in the first place do it? Why should information that he is going to get not be offered to the woman? That's all is happening in Virginia.
Let me ask you about another question.
Sure.
Under the new Obamacare program, the health care program, the insurance companies are required to carry, without copay, coverage for birth control. Isn't that going to radically reduce the number of abortions in this country? Birth control. The fact that women, poor women, working women will get it free and therefore will be very inclined to provide themselves with birth control and avoid abortions.
Well,
won't that be good for people who want to avoid abortions?
I would say, regardless of the answer to that question, the ends don't justify the means. And this is actually what this presidential debate, this is actually what this freedom of information is about freedom. And for women...
So the idea of radically reducing the number of abortions in this country is not a good end?
Of course it's a good end,
but it can be achieved by birth control.
But a mandate to require
not to use birth control, the availability at no cost will encourage women to use it, it would seem to me, because it's free and made available in your insurance programs. Won't that radically reduce the number of abortions in this country?
No. Look, 100% access is what women have now. Mandating that on individual consciences that don't believe in abortion-causing drugs is a restriction of religious liberty and conscience, and it should not be abided, and that's what we're talking about in the presidential
election. We're having. Cynthia, thank you always for showing your knowledge and passion on this program, as always. And Marjorie, it's great to have you on Dannenfelser. I disagree with on this one, but generally we're going to keep debating these things, obviously, in this country. Up next, everything's going well for President Obama.